Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Signing Agents Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I hope my voice, you can hear me okay. I've got a little bit of a scratchy voice. My little one was feeling a little sick this past week. Decided to sleep next to me and cough in my face. I feel fine though, but then I went to a basketball game over the weekend, and it was pretty exciting, and I was screaming, and so I've had a little bit of a scratchy voice. I'll tell you how exciting that basketball game was, though. It was last night, and it went into overtime. And in the last second, my team won with a half court buzzer beater shot and won by 3 points. So, pretty exciting game. All right, anyway, let's get to the episode. You probably see by the title of this, we're talking about getting IDs. And I was actually holding off on talking about this. I've had this in my notes for a while, but after this past week, what I've experienced, I thought, let's talk about getting IDs. Now, I'm not talking about getting IDs like, hey, just make sure you get IDs. I want to talk about why we should get good quality ID pictures and how I do it. Because, and maybe why it's important also. We'll talk about why it's important to get good quality pictures of their IDs. But because I've gotten some really bad quality IDs back this past week, and I get it. Every home is different, every situation is different. And I thought I'd share with you on this episode how I do it. So if you're watching on YouTube, which might be the best way to get a hold of this episode, because I'm going to show you examples of how I get pictures of IDs, how I filter it, how I create PDFs from them, and just what makes it work really good for me so that I'm a peak signing agent for my clients and so that you are peak signing agents for the signing services, title companies, mortgage companies that you work with. How I do it also, it looks really, really good because every house is different with lighting. They might have too much lighting, which causes glares on the IDs, or they don't have enough and the pictures look really dim. So let's talk about it. You gotta think about it this way. Most companies, title companies, mortgage companies, real estate offices, they all have copy machines. So when they make copies of IDs, it looks really good every time, right? It's gonna look good every time. So how do I do it when I'm on the go so that it looks really good? Let's talk about driver's licenses. When I get scans of IDs, I can tell the notary has placed the photo down and has taken a picture with their phone from a weird angle. And so they're not coming straight on, straight above. So when they come at an angle, the ID's face is on the table, and they're holding their phone maybe kind of in front of the notary's face. They're taking it at an angle. So the top of the photo, you're not going to read it as well because it has become it's not a rectangular photo anymore. It's a, what is that shape? Is that rhombus? Is it rhombus shaped? Let me know if I'm wrong on the shapes. Go to YouTube and comment. But where it's almost triangular because of the angle. Does that make sense? It's kind of coming down at an angle, and it's hard to read it well. So what I like to do is I come from the top. My phone is coming right above the picture. Now, like I mentioned, there's going to be maybe glares from lighting. It depends on the lighting situation inside the person's home or where you're at. If there is too much light and is causing glares, I don't want to take a picture because I've also received IDs of that where I can't even see much of their face because there was maybe a light source that was causing a glare. What I like to do is I might grab a piece of paper. I know I'm using my tablet here in this example. I might grab a piece of paper from the documents, and I'll just hold it over, and then have my phone underneath. So it's almost like a sandwich. There's a piece of paper on top, my phone is in the middle, and the ID is on the table. And I will take a picture that way, which will try to block out some of the glare. In fact, a lot of times the signers will even ask or offer to help hold the piece of paper so I can get a good shot. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I might do is I might kind of come up higher because maybe if I'm too close to the picture, my phone is causing a shadow. And so what I like to do is I maybe come up higher and then I'll pinch with my fingers to zoom in on the ID. And then I'm getting a really good picture of the ID. So I like to get the ID squared up in the photo. All right, that's what I like to do, so that it looks really good. Then when you have the photo, and if you go to your Photos app, now again, I use the Apple ecosystem. I'm going to assume that Google is the same way. But I just got this picture up of me and my wife here. And if I go and hit on the filters, I can change the different type of filters that I want to use. So if it was really bad quality, I can choose a different picture, a different filter to maybe brighten it up so that it looks more authentic. And that's how I get a really good quality picture. So even though maybe the lighting is bad and is a little dim at the location where, let's just say we're at the signer's home and they don't have really great lighting, I'm going to take the best picture I can and then go into my photos and adjust the filter and make it more bright. You can change the contrast. You can kind of change the quality of the picture quite a bit so that it looks much better and doesn't look so dark. Now, as a signing service owner, when I do get these type of pictures back, that is what I'm doing anyway. I'm going into the filters and I'm kind of brightening it up a little bit so that it's a lot more legible. Because again, anytime the signers are signing at the real estate office, mortgage office, title company, they're just using their copy machine and they're getting really great quality pictures every time. So I want to try to replicate that the best I can because that's what they're used to seeing, right? The lenders are used to seeing and the title company are used to seeing, because what they're doing is they're comparing it to the Patriot Act. You have to remember that too. They're getting proof that it's really them and they're comparing it to the Patriot Act to make sure it matches. And so I want them to receive what they're used to receiving, which is really great quality. So I want to replicate that. So if it's really dim, I'm taking a picture, I'm squaring it up, and I'm adjusting the filters so that it brightens up. If it's too much lighting and there's too much glare, I am using maybe a sheet of paper to block out some of that lighting, or I'm bringing my phone up. If my phone, because of the lighting that my phone is casting a shadow, I'm bringing my phone up and then zooming in on the picture to take a picture. Another thing that I might do is prop up the ID. So maybe I've got my, I don't have it with me. Let's just say, for example, I've got my notary stamp, and I'm just gonna use my glasses case. Sorry, but I might just use my notary stamp and prop up the ID to also block out some of the glare, and then take a picture of the ID then. Same thing I might do with a passport. Passports have a different type of sheen on them. I don't have my passport on me. I'm using a little notebook booklet that looks very similar to a passport. And again, you can put it down and then take a picture of the passport. The main thing that you want to get a picture of on the passport is the page that has their photo and description, the issue date, the expiration date. Now, a lot of passports, you might know, they seem to kind of stay closed because people don't really maybe use it as much or have it open as much. And so, yeah, my finger is in a lot of the pictures of passports. I will say that. And probably you'll experience that too. You'll have your finger in the picture because you're trying to hold it open the best you can. Another thing I like to do, again, if you're watching on YouTube, this might be a little easier, is I am holding it at an angle. I'm holding it up, basically. I'm basically holding it up with my hands, and then I'm taking a picture that's also going to help eliminate a lot of glare. Passports, like I said, have a different type of photo material. Almost, it's very shiny, I guess you could say. and reflective maybe. And so I'm just trying to eliminate that the best that I can. So I sometimes will hold the passport up, and I'm gonna bend their passport open a little bit. They don't really care. I mean, most people don't use their passport as much as they want anyway. So I'm holding it up, and then I'm taking the photo, and that is eliminating a lot of glare. And that is how I take photos to adjust for dimness or for reflections or shadows. Then I make a PDF out of it. So what I do is I've got my photo on my phone, and I'm doing two things. I'm cropping it. I'm using the edit tools of the photo to crop it, and I just kind of crop it down to where the idea is. I'm not trying to get all the table that I took the photo on. I'm just kind of cropping just the picture. Or I'm screenshotting cropping, but I'm cropping the picture. Then I use a slide. I either use Google Slides, or I'm using Mac or any type of Apple I'm using the Keynote. I'm using Keynote. And these are to make slideshows. These are to make keynotes or PowerPoints. And what I do then is I have it on portrait mode. So it's basically the size of a paper, 8.5 by 11 in portrait mode. I have edited the settings into portrait mode. I will put the picture in there and size it. A driver's license is about 3.5 inches wide, just so you know. So I use the ruler there, make it about 3.5 inches or more. If it needs to be a little bit more visible. And I'll just size it to the right size, center it on the page, and then export it or save it as a PDF. And I just name it their name. So if it's John and Jane Doe, I just name it Doe ID. So that when I'm uploading scans, or I'm sending it to my client, or I'm printing it out, it's going to be in a PDF format, which is what they would prefer, because that's how they would have received it. They would have made a copy of it, and it would have been on a piece of paper. Again, I'm just trying to make it the best quality that they're used to. And I just turn it into a PDF. That way they can print it if they need to, or or it's ready to scan because it's in a PDF format. And that's how I create the IDs. Because I know a lot of times I get scans, and this is fine, by the way, where the notary has made the ID itself as the PDF. But I mean, if they were going to print it out, they basically put ID as a PDF, so it's going to print out a huge picture, if they had to print it out, of the signers. And so I just size it down onto Keynote or Google Slides, depending what kind of device you have. It's going to be pre-built into your phone, by the way. If you have an Android, you've got Google Slides, or you can download it. If you've got an Apple, you've got Keynote. I actually use both. And so I just add that in there and then export it or save it as a PDF. And that's how I make really good quality scans of IDs when I send it back. So just as a quick recap, if the lighting at the home is very dim, I'm taking a picture, I'm going into the photos, and I'm adjusting the settings and making it a little bit more bright. If there is too much glare, I am using a piece of paper or using the documents themselves to shield some of the lighting as I take a photo of the ID. If my phone, if I'm taking a picture and it's causing a shadow, I'm backing up my phone, but I'm zooming in on the picture to eliminate the shadows and get a good quality picture. Once I have the picture, or I stand up the ID against something like maybe my stamp, and I stand it up to avoid some of the glare, and then I take a photo then of it standing up. And once I have the photo, I crop it so it's just the ID, nothing around, none of the table, none of the documents, nothing's around it. It's just the document. I then put that into my slide, whether it's Google Slides or Keynote, and then I export that as a PDF onto my device. And then I can send them the scans right there. That's how I do it. That's how I get really good scans. It's almost, it's not going to be as good as them getting from the copy machine. It's not going to be that good, but I'm going to get it as close to that as possible. And it just shows that I am a peak signing agent, because when I get IDs, and like I said, it's is it rhombus shaped? I want to say it's rhombus shaped. And they put their ID down and they're taking a picture of an angle. It gives a triangular angled glare to it. It's hard to read the ID number, or there's light glares, light flares, and I can't see some of the information because there's a light right on maybe the name. Like right in the center, the name will be blocked out because there's a light glare, and I just have to message the notary and say, hey, can you please send me another picture? I can't even read this ID. So if I can't read it, that means my client can't read it. All right. So anyway, that is what I do. Again, this might seem kind of repetitive for some of you that really maybe do some of these things, or you think, oh, I get good quality IDs. But this is what I do to make sure I get really good quality IDs. Or maybe you never thought about it and thought, I just take a picture, whatever. But, the lenders and title company need that, and they want to compare it to the Patriot Act, and they want to verify it's really them. And so that's why I think it is important that we get those. And like my team, we always make sure that it is an unexpired ID and the names match when we get the IDs as well. We've had that happen where and I think I've talked about this, where the notary said, well, in my state, I can accept an expired ID, and that's okay, great, that's fine for maybe general notary work, but when it comes to a loan, the lender cannot accept an expired ID. That's why the Patriot Act needs to have valid forms of ID, unless you get approval. All right, anyway, I hope that helps for another episode, and then next week, guess what? Coming back with some more value. And if you do find value in my videos and podcasts, please, if you don't mind, subscribe, follow, and share them with anyone else you think could also get the great value. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.